Welcome to the H.E.A.L, Help, Elevate, and Learn podcast. This podcast is a guide to healing your inner child and maturing your inner adult. This is the place where we slow down, look within, and begin the journey of restoring what was lost, silenced, or forgotten. Here, we believe that healing the inner child is not about reliving the past, it's about rewriting your future. Together, we'll uncover the wisdom, the strength, and the love you've always carried inside. So take a deep breath. You're safe, you're seen, and you're right where you need to be. Hello, everybody. How you doing today? This is Saucony Prince of SauconyPrince.com, where we make motivation personal, introducing you to yourself. And I'm going to welcome you to the H.E.A.L podcast. H.E.A.L is an acronym for Help, Elevate, and Learn, and it's based on my latest book by the same title, but the subtitle is A Guide to Healing Your Inner Child. You know, when I wrote the book, I didn't just want it to be just another book. I wanted to continue the conversation, which is one of the reasons why I turned it into this amazing podcast. And I have some incredible guests that have been on here to share some nuggets to help all of us learn how to heal our inner child. I'm currently working on my sequel to that book, which is entitled H.E.A.L, but the subtitle is A Guide to Maturing Your Inner Adult. And we're so excited to be able to actually share that with you soon. And I can't tell you how impactful I know that one is going to be, because after you heal the inner child, the next logical thing to do is to mature your inner adult. Well, listen, we want to thank our sponsor of this podcast, none other than the good folks at BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, BetterHelp.com/SauconyPrinceH.E.A.L. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable, it is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit BetterHelp.com/SauconyPrinceH.E.A.L. or choose Saucony Prince H.E.A.L during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. And again, we want to thank BetterHelp for sponsoring this amazing podcast. And I can't tell you how excited I am about our guest tonight, because, and I told her this just a second ago, she was the very first guest I had on my podcast. And I am grateful to her and indebted to her for her being a part of that inaugural show. Well, listen, I want to call up to the screen right now. Let's see if she is available. Miss Develda Edgington, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Good. All right. Well, listen, I want to give you a minute to tell the people about who you are and what it is you do.
Okay. Well, as it says, I'm Develda Edgington. Regulated rebellion is kind of like my tribe, now. I consider myself a regulated rebel, soft heart, strong boundaries. And so I help women that are late blooming, but yet in some transition of their life. Now, transition could mean, just burnout. It could mean divorce. It could mean just a late identity crisis, where they're finding themselves in a place in their life, typically 35, 40-ish, where you start asking yourself, who the hell am I? Okay. And who was I performing over there? So it's like between who I was and who I'm becoming. So I help women make it through that messy middle without collapse, without breakdown.
Okay, the messy middle. Yeah. I can understand how that is so needed. Well, listen, we are excited again to have you back as a guest on our podcast. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about what it is you do later on in the show. But let's hop into some of these questions, because like I said, this season we are kind of trying to balance between the inner child healing and, in fact, maturing the inner adult. So our first question is, what does maturing your inner adult mean to you, and how has that shown up in your personal journey?
Well, for me, it's kind of I didn't realize that I was your first guest in your first season. So I'm like, yay, it's kind of a full circle moment. And
Hey.
now we're talking about now that you have healed that inner child, and that inner child is no longer making all the decisions. Like now
Hmm.
that an 8-year-old is no longer making all the decisions in your 40-year-old life,
Right.
how do you sort of meet? How do they meet? And
Hmm.
so that kind of is where a lot of people feel like they're late. Like I spent so many years going through all of these different things in my life, and
Right.
now here I am in my 40s. So
Hmm.
they start to feel like they're late. So that's kind of where late blooming, it kind of, rolls right into that. So it's
Right.
like
Right.
now that you are here and your inner child has met the adult version of you, there's still a lot of lessons. There's still a lot of undoing to be done, So for me, that's just, it puts me in the mind frame of I'm a grown ass man or I'm a grown ass woman. When people say that, that's what
Hmm.
that means to me, maturing your inner adult. That means you're no longer concerned about the validation of other
Right.
people. That means that you give yourself permission to get it wrong. That
Yep.
means that you're no longer aiming to please either mama, daddy, grandmama, social media, your fans, your critics, your whoever. Your decisions for what you do with your life
Hmm.
are yours alone.
Right.
And it is an internal regulation versus an external validation. And that's kind of my how I see maturing the inner adult, if you will, or the present adult, because it's not inner anymore. Now it's like we're here, we've arrived, and now it's time for us to walk this walk.
Right. Right. And that's so so true. And yeah, it does become, one of those things where you graduate from one aspect of your development to another. And what I love about this is that you did have an opportunity to model that for other people and really help them, which is what you're doing. You are helping people through that, as you said earlier, that messy middle,
Yeah, yeah.
in order for them to get to that place to where they can, then walk in or step into who they truly are.
Right.
So.
And I tell people all the time, I
Mhm.
I teach and I support women from the climb, not the summit, because I have not yet arrived. There are still areas in my life, even at 46. Yes, I did
Mhm.
say my age out loud in public, but yes, I'm very proud of that. I'm still at my age 46 and having my awakening. I had 4 or 5 awakenings at the same time. So the lateness for me was in multiple areas of my life. And so I could have, looked at it like, oh my God, I wasted all of those years living someone else's life. Or I could
Mhm.
say, you know what? I was in survival mode and I was
Mhm.
doing the best I could to survive my circumstances. And now here I
Right.
am. And now what do I do? So I always say, um, I'm teaching you from the climb, not the summit. And so that helps, the women that I work with understand that I'm not up here looking down. I'm right here with you, girl.
Okay. All right. All right. There's nothing like having somebody in the trenches with you, someone that knows exactly what you're dealing with, and someone else that can also help guide you out of that. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Our second question is, many of us carry unhealed parts of our childhood. What are some signs that your inner child is still in control of your decision making today?
Well, I said a couple of them.
Did we lose you? Develda? Hello? I don't know if you can hear me or not, but we've lost you. There we go.
My
Are you there?
apologies. I forgot my phone in airplane mode.
Okay. That's okay.
So I had calls coming in from the kiddo.
Of course, of course.
Um, Let me just do that right now.
Okay.
Boom, we're in airplane mode now. So first of all, the people
Hmm.
pleasing, validation seeking, you know, I would say shutting down in a sense where a form of protection, because that's usually what children do too. When a
Right,
child wants to
right.
protect themselves, they go hide in a corner, or even masking. Some masking is necessary and it's appropriate, it's survival, but a lot of
Hmm.
times masking is what we do to give the perception of like me, because if you knew all of me, the real me, you may not like me, so let me put on this persona. Let me send my representative into the room,
Right,
because that person is more acceptable, that person, you guys will like that person. So
right,
it's kind of the same childhood playground type things that we used to do. Hey, I have a ball, want to play with me?
right,
Hey, look at what I brought for lunch today.
right,
To kind of
right.
win friends over. It's kind of that same thing with masking. We put on these personas because
Hmm.
we're afraid that if people see our real selves, then we won't be liked or accepted or will be judged. So that's definitely some of the ways um, in which we can tell that there's still some healing that needs to be done there, because we still actually care about revealing our most authentic self.
Yeah, yeah. And I know how challenging that can be to actually break that mold and to actually step out of that that way of living.
Right.
You mentioned it, and in fact, you said it right. Oftentimes, we are in survival mode, and we do those things, in fact, so that we can survive. But I'm so appreciative of people like yourself and even myself with the work that we're doing, because we help people to get past that and say that being authentically you, and being satisfied with the gift, abilities, and talents that you've been given, and
Right.
seeing your own value is so important. Because I tell people all the time that we need to value our value and see what value our value brings. And so
And
yeah,
learn how to trust it. Like
yes,
a lot of that inner child healing, and traumas that people are healing, recovering from, comes from at some point in their life they were told not to trust themselves.
right,
They started abandoning themselves to make other people comfortable or to make other people happy. And so they slowly but surely, over time, year after year, the more you abandon yourself, your intuition, your instincts, the more trust others over yourself.
yeah,
Like, you're reinforcing the messages that who you are is not worthy, and you don't hold value unless somebody else assigns that value, or unless somebody else gives you that worth. And so the way to exercise that muscle is just to do it, just to trust yourself, even when you get it wrong. If you get it wrong, sometimes you get it wrong, but it's still strengthening that self-trust muscle.
yep. And you also need to give yourself grace in those moments when you do get it wrong. Uh,
Exactly.
I I know some individuals that are so hard on themselves, where when they do get
Yep.
it wrong, and they literally, they in fact retreat back into their shell,
I
and
was
it's
going to
like,
say, yeah, some of them, they just get paralyzed by the fear of getting it wrong. And I can raise
right,
my hand that that has definitely been me on many times. I'm
right,
so scared that I'll get it wrong that I will do nothing. I'm
right,
not going to do it at all because I'm scared I'm going to do it wrong.
right,
And if I
right,
can't predict the outcome with some degree of certainty, then I'm not taking it on. And it cripples us. So I
yeah,
can definitely say I was that way too.
yeah, yeah, and what, but to me, that is the beauty of growth. And I keep going back to what you were saying about the messy middle. If you look at any construction site, it generally starts off with overgrown, in fact, whatever, and then they clear everything out, and for months it's messy. You got
Right.
to wear hard hats and steel toe boots, and there's dust, and there's things that are happening, and it doesn't look like the finished product.
Mm-mm.
But that process is necessary for the foundation, for the plumbing, the wiring,
Right.
the structure. All of that is needed. And even in our own life, and with one of my guests, she said, healing hurts, but also healing is messy. It's not pretty,
Yes. It's
You
not this
know,
IG version of it where people are sitting at the spas and at the retreats and they're like,
ex-
I'm
ex-
doing my facial and I'm in my Zen zone.
right,
No.
right. It requires a level of authenticity for for it to be real. And in fact, when I say real, I mean sustainable. You know,
Yes.
anybody can smile for the. I did a video a couple of years ago where I talked about smile for the camera.
Right.
It's
Right.
amazing to be in events, especially like networking events, and somebody
Hmm.
know that they're being filmed. I mean, they kind of perk up. They put their shoulders back. That they smile. They are doing it for the camera, but after the
Right.
camera's off, then they're like this.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
I call it the anchor woman because I used to do that,
the
and
anchor,
that's why it
anchor
stopped me
woman.
from doing videos along. Yeah, because as soon as the camera would come on, I would turn into this anchor woman, and I would be like, "Hi, welcome to welcome to my channel." It's like, where did this anchor woman voice come from all of a sudden? Now that I'm on camera, so I
Right,
had to do so much unpacking and peeling back the layers to figure out what am I hiding behind? Why do I become this other person other than who I am in regular everyday life? When the cameras come on or I feel like I'm being recorded. And so yeah, we all do it. We all do it, right? And me being
right,
autistic, I know that it's exhausting. People exhausts me anyway. So I avoid it when I can because I
right.
do mask. It will be a mask that I'll automatically put on just to
Hmm.
protect myself. And
Yeah,
like you say, as soon as everybody leaves, I'm somewhere like
right,
exhausted and drained.
right. Yeah. So being authentically you is not draining. It's yeah,
Right.
it's definitely not. All right. So our next question is: in your experience, what role does forgiveness of self and others play in the healing and maturing process?
Forgiveness of self and others. Both of
Hmm.
those are loaded because I'm going to say forgiveness of self is usually, what takes precedence because if you can't forgive yourself, it's kind of almost impossible to forgive others. But
True.
a lot of times that's what keeps people stuck because they will have forgiven the other person
Hmm.
thinking, okay, I'm gonna move on. That person did what they did. I forgave them, but they can't figure out why do I keep replaying this over and over in my head, and
Right.
why can't I move past this? And what I have found in my own personal work on me, with my two therapists, my Reiki healer, and God, is I was too busy shaming myself to see and hear myself, to forgive myself. So I was
Mm,
shaming myself for even allowing whatever to happen, like for
right.
allowing that person to either take advantage of me or to hurt me or, show them my tender underbelly for them to, affect me in that way. How could I
Hmm.
have not been stronger? Whatever, whatever. I was too busy shaming myself to
Hmm.
really forgive myself and see myself. So when it came to forgiving them, that usually rarely is the problem forgiving the other person. People
Yeah.
have a hard time forgiving themselves. And every time they even think about forgiving the other person, boom, it comes right back to them.
Right.
Like, oh, so you thought I was stupid. Oh, you played me for a fool. Oh, you
Right.
thought I was
Right.
crazy.
Right.
You exposed my vulnerabilities. So it goes back to what the thing is that they allowed somehow the other person to do. And so, um, in terms of how it helps and how it supports in the healing process, starts with self for sure. It starts with
Yeah.
having that self conversation with yourself and saying, I don't know if I don't want to cuss because I don't want you to, in case this goes on
you
YouTube.
you did in the first season.
Did I was saying okay? Because a shitty person did a shitty thing, and so let it go. Forgive yourself for allowing that shitty person into your life. But
Yeah.
what lesson did you get from it?
Mm,
Because I always say I never lose. I
right.
only win or I
Only
learn.
learn. Yeah.
Those are the two statuses for me. So there's
Yeah.
never a loss if you look at it that way, because there's always some type of even in the ugliest of situations, there's a message in
And a
it.
lesson.
And how does that message translate? How can you shape and form that message into a lesson for yourself? Forget the
Yeah.
other person, because they're going to move on with their life and
Right.
perhaps do it to someone else. But you know, you got to deal with you. So
Yeah. Yeah. So true. And I tell people all the time, one of the core fact beliefs I have is how important it is for us to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. But I think we are so quick to run past that we forget that that is a critical part of us being able to interact with those people around us. If I don't care what happens to me, I could care less what happens to you. If I don't see
mhm,
my own value, I'll never see yours.
never see
And
yours.
it's not to spend that much time, hyping ourselves up and thinking of ourselves more highly than we are. But the reality is, we have to have a certain level of appreciation for our own humanity so that
Yep.
when we encounter other people, we can offer them that same level of grace. But see, what happens is, because we are so hard on ourselves, because we
Hmm.
haven't forgiven ourselves, and because we can't let ourselves, or we can't give ourselves the grace we need in order for us to grow, we want
Exactly.
to stifle somebody else we want to choke them, in fact, with the same standards. And the reality is, we're not even living up to it ourselves. So how can we expect somebody else
And
to?
some people find that difficult to understand. How can they say the saying, if you can't love yourself, how can you love somebody else? I love RuPaul, and I'm always watching his drag race. And for so many seasons, I say, RuPaul does not have ADHD, because he repeats the same line every time. 50 million seasons. And ADHD person, shoot, we done forgot that and got bored with it and moved on to some other line. But anyway,
Yeah,
he said, if you can't love yourself, how the hell you gonna love somebody else? And
right.
so people don't understand that. They think, oh, I did love him. I did love her. I did. Well, how? Because you're doing it based on what you think it looks like, because you don't even give it to yourself. So how do you know you actually giving it? If you
Mm,
can't experience it, if you have never experienced it for yourself, to yourself, how do you know you're actually giving it properly? You don't, because you've never
right,
experienced it for
right.
yourself. You have never given your type of love to yourself. So, no, it feels like you're loving that other person, but what you're really doing is hoping that that person sees what you do for them and reciprocates it and gives it to you. And you will always lose when you do that.
Ooh, wait a minute. Hold on for a second. I think my toes are hurting. but but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. In fact, we have to make sure, in fact, that we are loving ourselves, and then we can love our neighbors. All right.
Yep.
Our next question is: what particular daily habits or practices have nurtured both healing the inner child and strengthening the inner adult?
A big one for me, and I'm at a place in my life where I'm really falling in love with somatic healing,
Okay.
is really connecting my mind and my body. I did not realize that for so many years I was living in a disconnect between my mind and my body, because the reality is the body always keeps the score.
Right.
Your body knows things before your mind even has the ability to grasp it and understand it. I think God blessed us with that ability. That's why we have intuition. That's why we have instincts. That's where energy. When people talk about energy, all
Hmm.
of those things, we were born with that.
Right.
We get trained out of it as we get older. When somebody tells us, no, what you're feeling is wrong, what you're feeling, don't dismiss that, you're just overthinking it, you're just being hyper vigilant, blah blah blah. So we get trained out of listening to the signals and the signs in our body. And it was
Hmm.
like, once I realized that those reactions that I was having when I was around this particular person or that particular person, or when I entered this room or that room, that feeling that I was having, that was my nervous system telling me something, but I just
Right.
didn't know it. I didn't know what it was.
Mm.
And so when I started connecting my mind and my body again, I just stopped and started really listening to it and saying, okay, what's happening, first of all, what's happening in my body? What does it feel like? And when was the last time I felt this? And the whole past, start recognizing patterns. When I do this, when I abandon myself for somebody else's comfort, when I sense something in my gut and I don't listen to it, and then something else happens, this thing happens in my body. So the next time it happens, you're like, ooh, I remember when my body felt like that the last time.
Right.
And then your mind starts collecting the data and recognizing the patterns. And I had to learn how to trust my body again. I had to tune into my central nervous system. Years ago, I did this thing about the invisible bully, which is our subconscious mind. I called it our subconscious mind.
Right.
I said our subconscious mind does not know fact from fiction. It only knows experiences. It knows what we feed it. It knows what we tell it. It knows what has happened already.
Right.
So that's why affirmations work. Affirmations work not because they're the words going into our head. Affirmations work because it's programming. It's programming our subconscious mind because it only believes what you tell it. It only knows experiences. That's why people have to watch negative self-talk. Whatever the
Right.
things you say to yourself, you are feeding and programming your subconscious mind. Well, subconscious mind, it's just the central nervous system is just the same thing, as the subconscious mind. That's our nervous system reacting based
Right.
on what we have experienced,
Right.
based on what has happened to us.
Right.
And I tell people, all the time, listen to that. Start speaking things to yourself that you want to show up in your life. Like, you have to reprogram that mind, just like you have to regulate. When people say regulate your nervous system, that's what regulating your nervous system is. Regulating your nervous system is restoring your self-trust, reconnecting your mind with your body, because
Okay.
decisions from our mind sometimes, and we consistently disregard our body. We consistently abandon our intuition, abandon our gut. Our body is telling us, no, 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 no. But our logical mind is telling us, no, it's okay. It's okay. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. So reconnecting the two so they can actually have a conversation and they can do that dance and they can
Okay.
be on one accord.
Okay.
So those are just some of the things that I do daily to regulate myself, regulate my nervous system, and reprogram my subconscious mind.
Okay. Well, now I remember the last time, in fact, you were here. In fact, you were doing something a little different, but now you're doing. I want to find out a little bit more about this regulated rebellion. So, tell me a little bit more about that.
So, um, my mom will tell you that I've been a rebel my whole life. I'm the baby of three girls,
Okay.
and I was the most hard headed, and I was
You-
always a question asker. I was always the one saying, why? Why? Why we can't go outside? Why we getting a whooping? Like, why we can't? Why? I was always asking why of
Mhm.
adults, kids, anything. So that reputation kind of followed me, even in the military. I was the same way. Like, says who? Why do we have to do it that way? That doesn't even make sense. Just because you did it for 50 years, it don't make sense today. So when I started coming into myself and having my own awakening and reclaiming my own self-trust, I realized that rebellion that I felt all those years was really my body, my nervous system ringing some alarms saying something is wrong here and I don't want to do it. I don't want to do what y'all telling me to do because this is not right. It don't make sense. I don't understand it. Help me understand it. Not to mention a late diagnosis of, autism and ADHD, that too. But so the regulated part is just me regulating my nervous system, me returning to myself, me tuning in and tapping into what my body is telling me, the signs, the signals, um, and helping me manage my anxiety, um,
Mhm.
uh, uh, feeling all of my feelings because I wasn't one to feel. When you're in survival mode, you don't feel certain feelings
Exactly.
because to
Exactly.
feel certain feelings, would mean slowing down. It would mean stopping. And 9 times out of 10, it would mean not hitting your goal, not meeting, going to wherever you're trying to get, because I ain't got time for all them feelings. But when you suppress, some feelings are connected to each other. So when you suppress, fear or anger or sadness, you ultimately suppress happiness and joy as well, because they are connected. If you can't experience one, you don't know when and how to experience the other.
It's like a pendulum.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. And I didn't realize that I had been emotionally constipated for years.
Okay.
I was. I wasn't feeling all of my feelings.
Mm.
So the regulated part was me learning how to feel all of my feelings, and the rebellious part is you can still be that type of person that says, no, I'm not going to follow your rules just because you say follow the rules. Fuck the blueprint. All the things these coaches are out here teaching you and programming in your mind and telling you you have to have this hustle mentality. No, you don't. You can still do all of that while staying regulated. You can still do all of that. That doesn't mean you're passive. That doesn't mean you have to be quiet. That doesn't mean you have to shrink. That doesn't mean any of those things. You can stay regulated and still be rebellious against any system that is forcing you to be somebody other than you are.
Yeah, yeah. That really it in fact reminds me of my slogan, where of course I say I'm Sakona Prince of SakonaPrince.com, where we make motivation personal by introducing you to yourself. Because I've oftentimes shared, once you know who you are, nothing can stop you. But until you know who you are, anything can. And
Right. Until you
spending
know who you are, everything will.
Yes, yes. And so doing that work to understand who it is you are, and again what value you have, and how needful in fact that value is in the world, is so
Mhm.
important. So who are some of your clients? Who are some of the people that you help?
Who? You asking me for my client list? We don't do
No,
that.
I'm
Oh,
not
okay,
asking for
okay, okay.
the, the
All right.
demographics of
I
them.
don't name drop that. I don't
Ah,
do that. I don't do that. I will definitely say that there are a lot of celebrities that did not know that I was the one behind all of their work on my marketing side. When I was, had my marketing firm, I have quite the roster of celebrity clients that I white labeled content for. But
okay.
in terms of who do I work with now, most of my clients are high achieving, high functioning, meaning they have reached a certain level of life and career through survival mode, but didn't
Mhm.
realize they were in survival mode. And so, because we're not designed to stay in this constant state of fight or flight mode for
Right.
years and years and years, their CPUs got fried. And so they experienced burnout. So now they're at this place where they are in burnout mode, but they're terrified because they're like, I built an entire empire. I built my whole life, this beautiful, amazing, immaculate life. And yeah, I was doing it in survival mode, but I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose everything I have now that I'm having this awakening or I'm coming, figuring out who I am and all of that. So, how do I rebuild without burning it all down?
Mm,
And so, I help women stabilize first and
okay.
then strategize second, because I always say you don't need another strategy. That's the last thing you need is another strategy, another hack, another 10x, blueprint, because that's not going to get you out of burnout. Another
Right.
strategy is not going to get you out of burnout. You have to stabilize first. You have to
Yeah.
stabilize, you have to return to yourself. And in some ways, that does require slowing down. But for my clients, what's slowing down for them, most of them means is
Hmm.
delegating
Yeah.
more,
I was thinking the exact same thing. Yeah.
delegating more, putting systems and automation in place to do the thing that they keep wanting to have their hands in, because now they're getting over this perfectionistic mentality, because
Mm,
burnout strips away all of that from you. Burnout will take you from building spaceships to having a meltdown over dinner. Like it's like burnout, the skill regression that happens in burnout mode
Mm-hmm.
will itself make you lose your mind because you don't
Mm,
know what's happening. Like,
right.
what is happening to me? There was a time where I did this stuff effortlessly. I
Right.
had no problem having this type of meeting. I had no problem doing this particular project or that project. I used to do this with my hands tied behind my back. And then all
Right.
of a sudden, you wake up one day and you're like, why am I struggling? Why am I
Right.
struggling with this thing?
Right.
And so that's burnout. Burnout will do that to you. And so that's where my clients are now. I work with clients. They're usually between the ages of 35 and 45. That's kind of where they start to get to that place. But I do
Mm-hmm.
have some clients that are in their 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And they are, like I said, high functioning, high achievers, but they're realizing that high functioning is, they don't want that label anymore. It gave them such honor at first, high functioning, but
Right.
now they're realizing that that high functioning was really high masking. It
Mm.
was high masking, and they no longer want to do that, and they want to build without burning it down and without collapsing. So
Okay.
that's what I help my clients do.
All right. Well, cool. Cool. Now, listen, I want to take a minute. I want to share something that my coach is doing. He's every year he takes a delegation to Nairobi, Kenya. I, in fact, went with him back in 2023, and my hopes and goals is to be able to go to him again this year. But I just want to share with you the where did I put it? Okay, here it is. Here is that it? Yeah, okay. I was like, who moved my videos around? But yes, I
Oh,
want to
my
share this.
cheese.
Yeah, who moved my cheese? Share with you this quick commercial of my coach, Dr. Ruben West, and his 2026 Nairobi, Kenya tour.
Nice.
Yes, and going to another country gives you a totally different perspective. Things that you take for granted over here, you are quickly to identify them, especially when you go and when you see that people do stuff differently. You know,
Yeah.
one you you know one of the things that really stood out to me was their level of respect for their elders.
Hmm.
We were in several meetings, and they would not speak until the eldest person spoke, and
Yeah.
that was so phenomenal to me. And just the level of culture that they have, the
Yeah.
authenticity about who
It's
they are.
beautiful.
Yeah. So for those who
Yeah, I
who
went to Nairobi in my military days. I spent about a week there.
okay, okay,
Hmm.
yeah, and actually, I, I spent a week there as well. uh, I know one thing I told my coach when I got there. I said, I am so glad that I'm here for these 7 to 8 days because I didn't want to see another airport, nothing. Because I'm telling you, that flight was a long flight, but again, life changing opportunity, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yes.
And listen, so if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, if somebody wanted to follow you, if somebody wanted to find out how they could get more of the regulated rebellion, where would they do that?
Develda
Okay.
is where you'll find all things. You can book a clarity call, discovery call. and it'll lead you in all the directions that you need to go. And on Threads and IG, and just about all the other platforms, including TikTok, I am Late and Loud.
Okay. Linked and loud or late and loud?
Late,
Late,
late and
late
loud.
and loud. Okay. All right.
Yes, but it's still under Regulated Rebellion. So if they type in Regulated Rebellion, it'll still come up. That's just my handle, Late and Loud.
All right. Cool. Cool. So, are there any final words that you have for our listening audience?
I would just encourage people to stay curious about yourself. Anything, that you notice about yourself that causes you any level of discomfort, or anything that's more than 3 people tell you or complain about you.
You said more than 3.
If there's 3 or more people that keep telling you the same thing and they keep finding the same pattern in you, and especially if they don't even know each other, just be curious about it. Be open to the possibility that other people experience you differently than you experience yourself. Just be open to it without judging it.
Yeah.
We spend so much time judging ourselves that we're not able to change it. We're not able to do the work because we have bought into this model that once you reach a certain age that you should know better, or you should have arrived at some magical place. But I tell people all the time, I've lived like 3 or 4 lives. People are so scared to start over, and I've started over and lived like 3 or 4 lives at this point. And so just stay curious. Life is for living, not for existing. You don't get to one place and then just sit down and have a turkey sandwich and kick your feet up or rub your feet together.
Right.
You live it, you experience it, and then sometimes you transform into something else, and you transform to a different stage and phase of your life. And you are not going to have all the answers to every stage and every phase that you find yourself in life. It's impossible.
That's so true. That's so true. And
so stay curious.
Yeah. And that's what another one of my guests, she said, stay curious about yourself. Because I tell people all the time, it's not just what you do, but why you do it. And if you understand the why, you won't keep repeating the what. You'll have a chance to change it and to make an adjustment for yourself and for the life that you want.
Right. And sometimes it may not even need to be changed.
Yep.
Understanding your why, you understand your what, but it also gives you authority to stand on it and say, this is who I am. And so I'm wired this way. This is who I am. And so stop trying to change me. I don't need to be fixed. I'm broken and I'm beautiful. So that could be the answer too.
Okay. We have a comment here from Miss Jennifer Myers. She said, just got here. Sorry, I'm late.
No, that's okay. Hi, Jennifer.
Hey, Jennifer. Well, Jennifer, the actual replay will be available once this is over, and you can definitely check it out on iHeartRadio and Spotify as well. We're so excited about that. And so we asked Jennifer that in fact you would just go back and you can start it over. You can start from the beginning and you can check everything out. Like and share and comment on this video, because I know there are a lot of people that are still trying to figure out how to get out of their own messy middle. She says, okay, thank you. No problem, Jennifer. No problem at all. Well, listen, with that being said, we're going to wrap this episode up. I want to thank my special guest, Develda. I thank you for your time, for your energy, for your effort that you put into being on the show. And I have started ending my podcast with my sizzle reel, which I had just a little bit when it comes to what I do for colleges. So check it. And we'll see you.
Sizzle.
Sizzle, sizzle. See you next time.
Bye.
Well, my name is Sakoni Prince of SakoniPrince.com, where we make motivation personal, introducing you to yourself. I help people in the area of personal development and leadership development, because I believe that you can't lead others until you learn how to lead yourself. But once you learn how to lead yourself, the next logical step is that you lead other people. Until you know who you are, anything can stop you. But once you know who you are, nothing can stop you. I'm a motivational speaker, a trainer, and a coach. I do what I do because I believe that people have truly yet to understand their purpose. Once you know who you are, nothing can stop you. But until you know who you are, anything can. So my goal is to really help people to understand their purpose and their calling. And oftentimes they have the answers themselves, but they're not asking the right questions. So I help people to get to that place to where they look at themselves, they step back and they see how they've been a help to those around them and what really drives them. And from that, they really understand the value of it. They learn to value their value and see what value their value brings. Because a lot of people, they have yet to do that. I want you to look at yourself. I want you to think about your limits. I want you can even hug them and embrace them. But then I want you to tell them goodbye. My 10-year-old son, he looks at me and says, Dad, I'm proud of you. I want you to understand that you are blessed. That you are blessed to be a blessing. That there is somebody looking up to you. They're looking at you. Don't ever forget that. Because if you ever do, you're going to leave them without